What's up guys, welcome back to Backroad Driver. Today, I've got my wife's vehicle in the garage. It's a 2020 Lincoln Aviator, and I'm gonna be throwing on a CV Fabrication intercooler. So if you didn't know, a Lincoln Aviator is pretty much the same thing as an Explorer ST. They both have 400 horsepower out of the 3-liter twin turbo motor. They're both all-wheel drive. You know, this one's got a little bit different interior features than the Explorer ST, but they're pretty much the same. Today, we're gonna put this CV Fabrication intercooler on. It's gonna allow us to keep those charged air temps a whole lot cooler, because right now, the intercooler is super tiny, doesn't do a great job, and that's the case on a lot of Ford Ecoboost products. It's just enough to get you by, but as soon as you wanna go fast, you need to get that intercooler upgraded. CV Fabrication has options for a ton of vehicles, so you need to check them out, but let's get into this install. So in the box, you're gonna of course have your massive intercooler. You're also gonna get some mounting brackets, looks like a left and a right, some mounting hardware, a couple of little random brackets, and a couple of zip ties. So where do we start? I'm gonna walk you through most of it. I'm not gonna get into every single detail and every single bolt, but I'm gonna try to note any differences that I see with the multitude of videos out there on the internet where they're installing this on an ST and the Aviator. So that's what I'm gonna be doing here. And let's get started. We're gonna be removing all of these 7mm underneath the vehicle. I think there's about 10 of them. Got a couple of push pins, but you do not need to remove these in the front on an Aviator. I'm pretty sure those are not there on an ST. Let's get these off to start. So before I pulled this thing in the garage, I went and got some baseline numbers with the factory intercooler on there. So let's go take a look at that right now. And what we're gonna look at here on this device is the charge air temperature. It's ACT2. That's the number you're gonna watch rise. And the current air temperature is 82 degrees. That's also gonna be on this device. I'm going to try to recreate what they do at CVT Fabrication in some of their testing. They are getting a static temperature at 20 miles an hour and then accelerating up to 80 miles an hour and getting the delta or difference in that charge air temperature over that amount of time and seeing how much it rises. And I'm going to tell you right now, it rises very quickly. So let's check this out and see what kind of numbers we get. All right, right now the charge air temperature number 2 is like at 102 degrees, and the ambient air temperature is around 82 degrees. Let me get down to 20 and accelerate. I saw 170 on there for a moment, coming back down in 140, 130, but I did see 170 at one point. So from 104 up to 170, 66 degrees difference. That's huge for the temperature rise. So let's get this intercooler installed and see if we can make those temperatures stay down, and that way the car is not pulling timing. You're going to go faster. It's going to be safer on a turbocharged vehicle. You're going to get more longevity out of your engine. It's easier on your engine when your temperatures aren't high coming out of those turbos, guys, and that's the main point here. So let's get this thing on and see what happens. So as expected, those 10 fasteners and a couple clips down here is all you need. Like I said, do not pull these across the front on the Aviator. After that, we can move from the lower side up to the fender wells, so let's get in there. So in each fender well, we're going to want to release these tabs. You're going to be able to want to pull this back. There's other stuff we've got to get to, so let's start by pulling everything off to get this cover out of the way. So after you've got these all unfastened, you're going to pull on this. It just pops on. This one's a little bit trickier, but it can be put back in place pretty easy. What we're trying to do is get this liner out of the way. Then you can see right up in here, there's a bolt there and here. You're going to have to take those out. And what that's going to do is allow this connection at the fender to loosen up, and we'll be able to pop this out. So yeah, these are 10mm, and boy are they fun to get out. I recommend using something like this. It's going to help you. If you got to do it by hand, it's going to take a long time. But yeah, 10mm. Got to do the other side now, and then we're going to undo some things under the hood so this front clip can come off. On the driver's side, everything was exactly the same. One thing I noticed, you do want to turn your tire inward. Gives you more room to work up in here. If it's turned out this way, it's kind of in your way, so whichever side you're working on, cut your wheel in. Also, a little bolt down here on the bottom that attaches to this that allows the bumper to release. You do need to get that one on both sides. So now that we've got the fender wells taken care of, the bottom taken care of, we've got to come up top and start removing this cover. This is going to be a lot different than an ST. Their cover is much different. We're going to take this off and see what we've got. So at this point in the game where I realized I got a little bit ahead of myself, you do want to disconnect the battery. So we will go ahead and do that, because now we're at the point where we're going to unplug some sensors and you don't want your computer freaking out. I did notice that the parking sensor is in the bumper on an Aviator, and the Explorer, it's in this piece of trim. So I didn't think about it at that point, but you can go ahead and unplug it, plug this light, unplug what you can get to, because when you pull this off, you're gonna have to reach in and pull everything off at that point. But you can go ahead and get started now. Don't forget to go ahead and unplug your battery. So removing this cover was very simple. Like I said, just remove all of these pull tabs and it's going to pop off. Now this is where things change a little bit from an Explorer, and I'm going to have to figure this out. On an Explorer, there is a kind of like a radiator mount bar, some type of metal running across right in here, and the grill comes up and there's 4 or 5 bolts just like this that allows everything to come off. What I've noticed is, I'm not sure if this bolt's gonna have to come off to come away from this shroud, or if this shroud is gonna come with this. So I'm gonna pull these bolts just like on an Explorer and see what happens. Okay, so it was just that simple. So these 5 bolts across the top, you're gonna see that these tabs were in here. You're gonna prise up on them. Got a tab here and here that are on each side. Just going to prise up on that a little bit, get it loosened, and then like I said, this just slides down and away. She comes right off, falls to the ground. The headlights are a little bit different on the Aviator, but it's pretty much the same process. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts, and this assembly should come out. This is a little bit different. It's kind of like an attachment over to the headlight assembly, but shoot, it's bolted here, so shouldn't be any different. So let's get that off. We'll unplug it, do the same thing over here, and get the headlights off. That went just as planned. Headlights are out. On an Aviator, you've got 2 connectors. They're going to be more up in this area. I think the ST, it's down in here. You still have a tab on each headlight that's kind of connected in here that you kind of prise up to make it come out. No surprises otherwise there. We're going to remove this shroud, and this aluminum bumper. The Aviator has this piece on here as well. I don't think that's going to matter. I think it's kind of attached in here, just slid in between all this. So we're going to take out 4 bolts and 4 bolts over here. This kind of lifts up a little bit and we'll get it out of the way. So now that we got the shrouds and the bumper pulled off, that is pretty much exactly like an Explorer, except you get this piece that is extra. It just snaps in place. No biggie. It's starting to look more and more like an Explorer now, less Lincoln. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and remove 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts here. You're going to pop this open. I'm not going to do it on camera, I'm one-handed. But you're going to pop this open and remove this side of the cable. That's going to allow you to unengage from your hood latch. We'll go ahead and unplug this as well. And we're going to come underneath. A little harder to see. So like what I've heard is on like 2022s and up, some of these are rivets and you have to drill them out. But looks like on a 2020, I'm safe. Just take all of those out. And you've also got a zip tie right there and right here. And we're gonna cut those off. New ones are supplied in the kit, so don't worry about any of that. So let's get those off. I think once you get all these bolts down here, all of these bolts off up here, it's gonna be held by these little brackets. I think you got to squeeze on them or something. We'll figure that out when we get there. But now it's time to remove this whole assembly. Trying to see if I see anything different. Looks like this whole piece is gonna come off with this wiring assembly. So I'm gonna get that out of the way. Like I said, these wires are more over to the side instead of down here on the Explorer, so there's nothing attaching that. So one of the benefits of having a lift is, since I couldn't get this bumper all the way off, I was able to lift this up here and make it easier. Want to note that you only take out the 10 millimeters. You do not take out these 13s that are down here. You can see one here, here. So yeah, you don't need to take those out. Once you get the 10s out, it's completely loose. So I'll lower this back down and we'll go back up and get those clips. If you're enjoying this video and it's helping you, make sure you give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to our channel. We got tons of Ford content, F-150s, we got Broncos, we got GT350s, and heck, over the past couple years we've had GT500s, Trackhawks, this, that, and the other. If you like stuff that goes fast, we got it, so make sure you subscribe. Okay, we're back up top. I've got these undone. This is gonna sit over the top of these, and this is just a little support, but the way to get these off is to pull forward on this shroud, and then you're going to want to be pushing at the back to allow it to separate. And it's basically, you're going to be pushing on these clips on the sides here and here. So here and here. That's how you're going to get those to release and pull forward. Now we've got to undo this connector. Just push in and flip that out. Already undone this one, and we're gonna undo this connector down here. So let's get those off and this shroud should come off. Finally, we're ready to remove this puny little intercooler that they put on this twin turbo 3-liter. I mean, that's super tiny, guys. What we're putting on is going to be way better. At this point, you've got to undo these hose clamps on this side and right here. You're going to take out this bolt. We're also going to pop this clip off. Anyway, we'll pop that loose and pull this cable out. We'll be able to remove the intercooler. Then we can go over to the bench and start setting up the new intercooler to be put onto the vehicle. It's time to prep the intercooler. You've got this little bracket, and it's going to go on. Think of this as this is the top, and this is the little tabs that you had over here on this intercooler. So you want these to point down and up and over, up and over. That's going to allow it to clip on like the others. I've noticed that there is a bit of play, and on this side it could matter more. You're going to put that bolt back in here. So what I'm going to try to do is line these up, center the holes as best I could, and make it side to side fit really well on both sides, and we'll see if that doesn't do the trick, so you're not guessing pushing it way down or pulling it way back. But we'll go with that. We've also got this air connector that we got to put back on. I'm going to put some Teflon tape on it, wrap these threads. When you start threading this in, there's quite a bit of play, and I'm sure at some point it starts getting a little tighter, but I mean, if I can tighten it up that far and it be really loose, I'm going to go ahead and put some of this on to make sure we don't have any boost leaks right here. So I'm going to get that prepped up, and we'll go back over to the car and stick this thing on the front end. So everything fit up really well, adjusting those brackets like I said. Just line them up with this cast piece, kind of center the holes, and you should be good to go. I've got my charge pops tighten back down. I would make sure, if you do anything, make sure that this is tight, and make sure that this is tight. Is if it's not, and it's not a good seat, if that pops off, you're gonna have a heck of a time getting back in here and tightening that up. But you know, with more boost comes more possibilities for these to fail. You know, I'm sure there's upgraded charge pipes. CVF, I believe, makes those. Like I said, this build is not all out race. This is for some more fun, more reliability, that sort of thing. We're not going to go to those crazy places, but that's one thing you want to make sure you get tight, because you don't want that to pop off going down the road. It'll make for a bad day if you're somewhere without tools and that sort of thing. Yeah, we can pop this back on now. Got this back on, and you can see that this lined up really well. Just need to tighten this bolt down. Something else I wanted to mention: once I started tightening this, threading it on, I got to a point and it's really tight, and I want to say that this is stainless and this is aluminum. Do not keep going and tightening this down until this gap goes away, because you'll end up stripping the threads on this, and that will be very bad for you. You'll either have to rethread this could break, God knows what could happen. You know, it would take some welding and some drilling and tapping to fix that at that point. So just don't over tighten that one. You do want it good and tight, but don't break anything. I guess at this point we can also look at just how much different this thing is. I mean, let me try to set this here. It's hard to do both, but you can tell just how much more area you're going to have with the CV fabrication intercooler over the stock. Did want to mention, you've got to pull this sensor off of the old intercooler. It was held on by this real coarse thread screw. It is not what you replace into this. You want to use one of the new supplied 10mm bolts with a fine thread. This will just strip everything out. So go ahead and mount this sensor. Don't over tighten and snap this thing. You know, brittle plastic. And now it's time to throw on these two brackets in the front. They're just going to sit down. There's a mounting hole here and here. Bolt these in the face, and now this thing's in here pretty solid. Time to start throwing everything back together now. So putting the shroud back on there is fairly self-explanatory. There's some alignment places up here. You're gonna feed those in and snap these in first thing. That's gonna be the easiest way to get it up here and in place. Of course, we'll put these bolts back in. This is what this looks like. So I've fed this back over. You want to make sure you get this inside so it sits like that. Get that shut. Of course, hook this back up. Let's see, you can go ahead and unplug this sensor up. You're going to want to get this pipe locked back into place. This is going to be air intake right here. So you don't want to leave this unhooked. It'll be pulling hotter air in. Don't forget, we're going to plug this cable back up. This one at this time. Of course, I've got the bumper back on here. Got the bolts kind of started in here. So after these are bolted on, you can go ahead and throw these shrouds back on. Pretty self-explanatory. I mean, I put these zip ties back on, but I don't understand why they're there in the first place. It must be something from the factory during the manufacturing process, because by the time you bolt this back on, it's not going anywhere. So you can do that if you want to, but really after you've put these back on, everything's going to be nice and snug. So at this point, I've put all those bolts in, and we can throw headlights back in. If you've got the windshield washer thing, don't forget about it, because you'll want to feed that down below your headlight. So yeah, let's throw some headlights in. Lights are in now. Yeah, make sure you connect them, then slide them in place. Pop this little point in place. put your bolts in. After that, don't forget, underneath, along that bottom, you had 6 10mm bolts that we took out. Some of you guys have pop rivets, possibly. Put those back in. I went ahead and got my washer fluid line hooked back up. I still have a connector here and one over here that I need to hook up. And this is a point where if you had a hand or two, they could pick the bumper up for you and you could plug them in and then get your front bumper seated back in this spot. But what I'm going to do is just set everything back up here, kind of get the bumper in place with a screw or two up here, go underneath and plug those in before I go any further so I don't forget them, and start buttoning the front end up. So I did go in there and connect those connectors. Also, there were some on this side right there, so don't forget this brownish pinkish colored one. Got those on. At this point, you're going to seat your bumper back on. You're attached up here, but I fit this side, and as you can see, this gap pull up. So you're going to go in there and put those 2 bolts back in on this side, and you can go ahead and put your fender well back together. Same thing on the other side, except you're just not going to be able to get both of these up here and have them stay in place while you're working on one. So get one done, go to the other side, fit it back together. Well, I'm done. I'm not that tired. Took me just a tips over 4 hours, and yes guys, I was filming this video while doing all the wrenching, so I deserve credit for that, but it did take me just a bit over 4 hours. Did I need a lift? No. Did it help? Yeah, getting underneath a little bit made those a little bit easier, especially lining them up at the finish there. But other than that, I would say it's as easily a you know, out in the garage or out in the driveway type project for most people. If you take your time, anybody can do this. So right now it's time to go get in the vehicle, take it down the road. I'm going to get it up to temp, and let's see what kind of gains we've made with the CV fabrication intercooler. All right, let's see what kind of results we get. As you can see, the air temperature is about 82 degrees, so we're pretty much the same there. The charge air temperature 2, ACT2, is sitting at 116. Let's figure out what happens when we give it some juice here up to 80 miles an hour. Wow. I mean, we didn't break into the hundreds until I've started coasting again. I mean, that is moving a massive amount of air. We touched 170 previously with the stock intercooler, and they just sucked down them at this intercooler, held steady. And I mean, gosh, you're not going to see that temperature rise like you do with the factory intercooler. I mean, that's what they said it would do, and that's what it just did. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with the results. You know, I've had CV fabrication stuff before, never let me down. I had some on my, I had an intercooler on my F-150. We also put that on Brad's wife's Navigator. The results were pretty awesome on those 2 vehicles as well. So all I can say is it does what it says it's going to do, and it does it well. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Make sure you check out our other content. There's probably a video here or here somewhere. We'll catch you guys in the next one.